Hello and welcome to our first problem. Write two missing values to make these equivalent fractions correct. So where we're going to start with this one is we're going to start in the middle because we've got our complete fraction. So here we've got 8/12. So you can see my bar here that I've drawn just to visualise this, and then we'll move on to doing it without the bar in a moment. So we've got one bar and I've used 12 boxes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 boxes. Now we've got 8/12 in this fraction, so I'm going to underline 8 of those boxes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see here, I have got 8/12. Okay. Move that one down so we can see it a bit better. So I've got 8/12. So then I'm going to move on to my next fraction. So I'm going to go just to the one on the left here. I've got thirds. So I've got the same length bar, otherwise I can't compare my fractions, but this time it's divided not into 12 boxes, but into 3 equal sized boxes. So I know 12 divided by 3 is 4, so I'm going to have 4 boxes in each one. So now I've got thirds. I don't know how many thirds will be the same as 8/12 yet, but if I look at my diagram here, I can see 8/12 is here. So I can see how many thirds will be the same as 8/12. Looking at the bottom, a little bit trickier now because it's 4 over something. So I don't know how many pieces this time to divide my bars into. I could do it by looking visually and thinking, well, actually, if it was thirds, then it was what I've just drawn here. If I then do those in half again, I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it'll be 4 out of 6. So it'll be 4/6. That's a little bit tricky to see, and you might not always have that pattern to be able to work that out that way. So how we're going to do it, simple rule is whatever you do to the numerator on the top, you do to the denominator on the bottom. So you can see in this one that we've done already, here we had 12 pieces. In this diagram, there were only 3 pieces. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So the bar on the top has got 4 times as many pieces. So the pieces themselves are 4 times smaller. So I need 4 times as many of them to make the same amount. If we look back up at the top here, so from 3, so to get from 12 rather to 3, I would divide by 4. So the pieces get 4 times smaller. So I need 4 times less of them. So I divide the top by 4 as well. So 8 divided by 4 will give me 2/3, which is what we can see in our diagram here. We're looking at the other number now. We can see we're going from 8 to 4. So we've got 8 pieces in the middle to 4 pieces on the fraction of the right. So the number of pieces have halved. So to keep the same fraction, or equivalent fraction, the number of pieces that we've divided our bar into also needs to half. So we can divide that by 2, and then we end up with 4/6, which is what we had down here in our diagram. Just remember, whenever you do an equivalent fractions, whatever you do to the top number, the numerator, you also do to the bottom number, the denominator. You will always have, hopefully, one fraction where you can start with. In this case, it was 8/12, and from there you can work out your other fractions as well. Right, so in this question, we've got each diagram below is divided into equal sections. We've got to show 3/4 of each diagram. So we should know that 3/4 is 3 out of 4. Now, luckily on this first one, we've already got 4 pieces, so I just need to shade 3 out of 4. The next one's not so easy. First thing we need to do is count how many pieces we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got 12 pieces there. The way we're going to do it on this one is find an equivalent fraction. So 3/4 is equivalent to how many 12ths? So just like on the previous example we had, we look at where we've got two complete parts to our fraction. So in this case, we've got two denominators. So how do I get, using multiplying or dividing, from 4 to 12? So if I count in 4, I go 4, 8, 12, and times in 4 by 3. So whatever I do to the bottom, I also do to the top. So in this, my pieces have got 4 times smaller, 3 times smaller rather. So my top, I need to have 3 times as many of them. So times the top by 3, that will give me my answer there. And then I shade that many pieces in. The last one, again, count how many pieces we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 3/4 is the same as how many eighths? So on the bottom, how do I get from 4 to 8? Times by, what do I times by to get 8? And then do exactly the same to the top. And then shade that many in on here. That's just one way to do it. There are other ways. You could, for example, find what 3/4 of 8 is. So divide 8 by 4 and then times by 3. That's another way. Or you could just count 4 pieces and out of every 4, shade in 3. So you could just say 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So I'll shade in 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. I'll shade in 3 of them. There are different ways to do this, but whichever way you choose, you should always get the same answer. Final one this time, again, it's all to do with equivalences and equivalent fractions. Is 4/9 greater than 1/3? Circle yes or no and show how you know. Now, often when we get to these problems, the tricky bit is explaining. Now, we can explain with maths. We don't need lots of words to explain. Is 4/9 greater than 1/3 then? Now, they're hard to compare at the moment because they've got different denominators and different numerators. We need to make them so that they have got the same denominator. So we're going to start with the fraction with the smallest denominator. So in this case, 3 is the smallest value digit. So we're going to convert our thirds into ninths. So 1/3 is how many ninths? So just like before, what do I multiply 3 by to make 9? Those pieces have got 3 times smaller. So I will need to do the same to the top. So is 4/9 greater than 1/3? All you need to do to show me is which of these two fractions is greater. And this is easy now because the denominator is the same. So in terms of evidence, this is all we need to do. We need to show our working out to show how we've got to the value of 3/9, and then show that we understand that 3/9 is less than 4/9.